So as you can tell from the title, this video will be a bit about my experience with anorexia and the main strategies that I used to overcome this eating disorder. So I made a post about this a few months earlier, talking about how it is really important for us to be mindful of the comments that we are making about other people's body images and eating habits. I actually received a lot of private messages and positive comments saying how my post was very relatable, and I guess ever since then I've always wanted to make a video to further delve into my experience and try and help out some people who might be struggling or might know someone who is also struggling with an eating disorder. So as we know, there are a lot of statistics, like 4 out of 10 individuals have either personally experienced an eating disorder or know someone who has. But I believe that being able to talk to someone, and hopefully for the people in Bayview or in the Richmond Hill community, being able to hear the story from someone in their community will be able to help them or know that they're not alone in this situation. So I'm first going to start with a brief description of my experience, but if you want, you can skip ahead and you don't have to listen to my story. So I will be talking about different solutions that are feasible on how to overcome an eating disorder at this time here. And if you know someone who is struggling with an eating disorder, you can go to this time over here, and I'll also give some suggestions on how you can help them. So for those of you who are watching this and don't know me, my name is Jamie, and I am currently a grade 12 student who is enrolled in the International Baccalaureate, or IB program. So this is an extremely stressful academic program, and to be honest, it is probably one of the largest factors that contributed to my eating disorder. So I'm going to be posting some pictures along the side of the video so you can get a visual representation of what I went through physically throughout high school. So I'm about 5'3", which makes me a pretty short female, and at the beginning of grade 9, I think I was around 105 pounds, which still means I was pretty light. So I've been thin for most of my life. Now, in the middle of grade 10, I started taking on more leadership positions, school got harder, and I had to cope with a lot of extra stress. So I wanted to do this in a really healthy way. So I dealt with stress by going to the gym and going on the elliptical. And I do believe that exercising is a great outlet for relieving stress from school, but it almost became to the point where it was very obsessive. So in grade 11, the workload got even harder, and as a result, I increased the time that I spent on the elliptical machine from 25 minutes, maybe about 3 times a week, to about 60 minutes, 5 times a week. And I also noticed a lot of physical changes that accompanied my extra amount of exercise. So for one, I went from being about 105 pounds in grade 9 and grade 10 to 100 pounds by the beginning of grade 11. And I also noticed that I started to gain abs, and keep in mind that these are not real abs that come from, I guess, great core strength, but more like quote-unquote skinny abs that come from just having a really low body fat. So basically the minimal amount of muscle that I had still was able to protrude and show. So I received a lot of positive comments about my thinness and about the fact that I was able to have abs, and this made me think that what I was doing, all this excessive exercise that I was going through on the elliptical, was actually a really positive. So I reached the point around the middle of grade 11 where I was 98 pounds and I couldn't lose any more weight. So as a result, I decided to cut my calories. An example of a standard meal or a standard day of eating for me would be having a piece of toast for breakfast, a smoothie for lunch, which was just maybe a banana, almond milk, and spinach, and then more spinach and carrots for dinner with no dressing because I thought that it would have too much fat in it. So I was eating about 1,000 calories a day, which is only half of what the average female should be eating, but I was okay with this because it allowed me to see the number on the scale drop lower and lower and lower. However, I experienced many side effects other than being hungry all the time, such as I was always cold. I actually lost my period for about 10 months, and I was constantly stressed out about trying to keep my calories under a certain amount. It became even more stressful than all the schoolwork and extracurriculars that I had to deal with. I started to realize that it was a problem about 6 months ago in April when I went to the doctors to get a meningitis shot, or one of those things that they require you to get for school. And when I took off my coat, he had a really shocked expression and asked me to step on the scale. And at this point, he saw that I'd gone from being 100 pounds maybe a year ago to actually being only 88 pounds. And he told me that it was extremely dangerous for me to be this thin because I could start to see severe side effects. He actually later that night called my mom, again expressing concern and saying that I could experience organ failure, such as kidney failure, and it could even be fatal if I kept on progressing on this path. And I guess when I heard this, I burst into tears, and I realized that I couldn't believe that I hadn't yet got to the point that you see on TV or in news articles of the people who have to be hospitalized, but that I was reaching this point. And I knew that I had to make it my goal to regain all the weight that I had lost. Since I had been spending all this time trying to lose weight, it was really hard to change my mentality and start to gain weight again. So for the first month, for every 2 pounds I gained, I actually felt really awful about myself, and I would go on the elliptical machine again for an hour and a half to lose the 2 pounds back again, because I kept on, and I think the reason that this happened was because even though I was trying to gain weight, I kept on hearing comments from my female friends, from my female peers, saying, oh, I'm going to eat a salad to cut down on calories, or, oh my god, I have to lose weight for the summer. And this made me feel like what I was doing of trying to gain weight was wrong and not something that was normal. So at this time is about when I made the post on Facebook actually saying that we have to be really careful about the comments that we are making, because even if we think they are, nice comments, like saying, wow, you look really thin, it could actually be harmful and further support someone's eating disorder, or make them feel, bad about how they look. Thankfully, I have an amazing group of friends, and they did everything that they could to support me in regaining my weight and helping me to make sure that I was doing okay. Another big factor that contributed to make me want to make this video is I actually reached a goal today where I am now 100 pounds, which is still not the heaviest I was before, but it is definitely a large step from 88 pounds, that I was only about 4 or 5 months ago. So now that I think that I am pretty successful with overcoming my past eating disorder, I wanted to help give feasible tips to those who are also struggling with an eating disorder, so they could maybe overcome it themselves. And I don't want to give tips like, oh, you have to get out in the outdoors, or you have to learn to love yourself, because I don't think those are very concrete or very feasible. So I'm going to give my 5 biggest things that I use to, regain the 12 pounds in a really healthy way over the 4 to 5 months. So tip number 1 is to follow and admire people who have a more realistic body type. And in this sense, we all know that the models in magazines are photoshopped, or they all have personal trainers, they have people who are constantly making food for them. But even though we know all of this, I found that whenever I was looking at the Victoria's Secret models such as Gigi Hadid or Cara Delevingne, I would want to try and look like them, and I would do stuff such as starve myself so I could achieve this ideal body type of thinness. However, this is unrealistic, and even though I knew that, the constant exposure to these type of images made me feel like that is how I should look like. So as a change, I started following other people, other females such as Meg Squats, who is a power lifter, or Amanda Bucci, who is, she's also a bikini model, but she has a more full figure. Oh, no, not full figure. She's still very, very thin, but she has a very healthy body type. And looking at these people instead made me want to, try and achieve this more healthy and realistic body type rather than those that we see of the photoshopped models. So tip number 2 is that I actually started cooking my own food, and in the past I would still make my spinach and carrot salads, but I found when I cooked my own food, such as even treats like brownies or pasta, the fact that I knew what was going into the foods and the nutrients in it made me feel better about eating the food rather than just being given a brownie and then feeling guilty. And so while it may be hard to see the distinction, I think when you make your own food, because you put the work and effort into it, you have a better relationship with it and relationship with the food, and you don't feel so bad about eating it. And this was a big step that I took to start, I guess, eating more and increasing my calorie intake. So tip number 3 is to surround yourself with people who love food. So before, sometimes I would be with friends or people who would have maybe a piece of bread and then be like, oh my god, I'm so full, I cannot eat anymore. And then I would feel bad about myself because I'd be like, I just had 2 pieces of bread, I'm still hungry, but maybe I shouldn't eat anymore either because you're full. But then these are not the type of people that you want to be eating with, because then you're never going to be able to I guess increase your calorie intake as well. So one thing that really helped me was in the beginning of the summer I joined a dragon boat team, and people who are part of dragon boat eat a lot of food. Like whenever we go to regattas, there's always a table full of food, and the whole time people are eating, but then instead of feeling bad about people saying, no, I cannot eat any more food, that's too much, you're surrounded by people who love eating food, who embrace eating food, and then you don't feel so bad about yourself when you say, okay, you know what, I can have some chips as well. So being able to surround myself with people who don't have the negative mentality or negative stigma about eating was also really helpful for me. So tip number 4 was that I set goals of what I wanted to achieve weight-wise. So for example, my goal was to be 100 pounds by Christmas and 105 pounds by prom of the coming year. So I'm really happy that I was able to achieve my goal of hitting 100 pounds before then, and I'm actually increasing my goal to be 115 pounds by the time that I reach prom. So when you're setting goals for achieving a certain weight, it is important to write them down, because then this is more concrete and you're more likely to stick with this goal. And it is also extremely important to set a time frame. For example, if I said I want to reach 115 pounds, if I don't set a time frame to reach it by, I might never achieve it. Whereas if I say I want to reach 115 pounds by prom, I'll have something to work towards. And so my 5th biggest thing that I started to do was I started strength training. I started doing powerlifting. So this is because I love exercise. I think it is a really great way to relieve stress, but at the same time, I did not want to keep on doing my standard running and elliptical machine, because this would just further promote fat and weight loss. Whereas when I was doing strength training, I'd be able to gain weight and gain muscle at the same time. And so this is not as easy or as feasible as the other 4. And sometimes I find even I probably exercise a bit more than I realistically should. But if you're looking to change your workouts from, I guess, just constantly being doing cardio, I would definitely recommend strength training as a really healthy way to gain weight rather than just constantly eating. So now I have a few tips for people who may know someone who is struggling with an eating disorder. And these are essentially things that I would have probably benefited from if my friends or family said or did to me when I was struggling myself with an eating disorder. So number 1 is to not say any comments such as, I'm so full, or, oh, I have to eat this because I'm watching my calories. So even around people who you may not think have an eating disorder at all, these kind of comments can make others feel really bad about what they're eating. For example, when I know, for example, my mom, she doesn't have a big appetite, so sometimes she would stop eating and be like, okay, I'm so full, and then I I would have eaten the same amount of her, but I was still super hungry, but then I didn't want to eat anymore because I felt like if someone else wasn't eating that much, I shouldn't be eating that much. So we have to be really careful about the comments that we make about eating, because it can be really sensitive. It can be a really sensitive topic to people who we don't know it is sensitive towards, essentially. So tip number 2 is to try and have fun with whichever friend you know who is struggling with an eating disorder. So a lot of times eating disorders come from anxiety, stress, and pressure from home. So if you just take time to take your friend out, maybe not for dinner, but to a movie, to, I guess, maybe hang out at your place, this can be a really great stress relief. It can make them feel better about themselves, and as a result of feeling better about themselves, they will be able to feel like they can eat. If you can see the correlation between that, because when we feel bad about ourselves, like for example, when I felt really bad about getting a bad mark on a test, I would not want to eat because it was almost as a way to punish myself. Whereas if they feel good about themselves, they are more likely to eat, and then this is a really positive step away from, I guess, the eating disorder that they are struggling with. And I guess the third thing is that if you are close enough, I would definitely recommend being straight up and asking your friend, like, hey, I've noticed that you've been eating less, or I've noticed that you've been losing a lot of weight quickly. Is there something wrong? Is there something that I can help you with? And I found personally that getting support from my friends was one of the best things that really helped me change from just keep on dropping weight from lower and lower and lower to actually being able to get better. And for example, I have one of my friends, I was talking to her one day, and we were walking, and we were walking past a window, and sometimes when you walk past a window, you see a reflection. And I said to her, do you think my legs are too thin? And instead of saying what she thought I would, was, no, you're perfect, you're thin, you're fine. She was like, yeah, you know what, Jamie, your legs are kind of thin. If you gained weight, that would probably be a good thing. And I really appreciate her straight up honesty towards me, and the fact that she, I guess, was clear that she noticed that I was losing too much weight, and that I should do something positive to change it rather than just kind of ignoring it and letting me progress downwards as I was before. Following these tips helped me so much, and I feel a million times better than I did in grade 10 or grade 11. I'm a lot happier, I'm a lot less stressed out, I'm not constantly hungry every period. And so if you're struggling with an eating disorder or with your weight, or you know someone who is also struggling with their weight as well, I would really recommend trying these tips because they helped me out a lot. So out of the 5 things that I recommended, I'm pretty sure that one of them will work for you or for your friend. And if you want to ask me any questions or share your own personal stories, I would love to hear them. So if you have a way of contacting me, you can message me through Facebook. You can comment down below. I will try my best to respond. And I really hope that this video helped anyone who is, again, I guess, struggling with their weight, or who just wants to get a better understanding of others who are going through an eating disorder. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hoped, again, that this video helped.